My future husband's brother confessed his love the day before my wedding. Then the entire family demanded I marry him instead. My name is Charlotte Anderson, and I want to share the complete story of how my fiance's older brother confessed his love for me just one day before the wedding, and how that single event changed my life forever. This story is long, tangled with emotion and details, because so many events led up to that dreadful day, and so many consequences followed. I am determined to recount it fully from my own perspective, omitting no crucial experience or inner thought. I will speak of how I first met my fiancé and his family, how his older brother entered the picture, and how a simple set of assumptions spiraled into a shocking ultimatum that threatened my freedom. I choose to write it without using parentheses, trusting that my words alone will convey the depth of what I endured. It is a winding narrative with heartbreak, betrayal, and unexpected revelations. By telling it in my voice alone, I hope others can understand how I wrestled with family pressures and found the will to stand up for myself. I grew up in a modest home outside of Chicago with my parents, Robert and Janice, who taught me that integrity matters more than pleasing others. They were not wealthy, but they valued honesty and personal agency. After college, I began working in event planning, eventually landing a decent position in a firm that managed weddings, corporate functions, and conferences. Because of that job, I gained an interest in how families interacted, how big celebrations often revealed hidden tensions. Little did I know that soon my own wedding would become the center of a family drama so intense that my sense of identity would teeter on the brink. I met Adam when I was 26. He was from a fairly prosperous family in the same city, working as a software consultant. We began dating, introduced by mutual friends at a local lounge. Adam struck me as a kind and stable man, the sort of partner I had always hoped to find. He was warm, attentive, content to let me live my life as I saw fit. The first time I met his family was about 6 months into our relationship, during a casual dinner at his parents' home. That was the day I met his father, Daniel, his mother, Evelyn, and his older brother, Michael. I remember being anxious to make a good impression, but they were polite enough. Michael was somewhat distant, overshadowed by Adam. At the time, I paid little attention to him beyond noticing he was tall, slightly reserved, and seemed to have a sharper aura than his brother. Adam later told me that Michael ran a small tech startup and was used to being the star. I found it interesting that he let Adam be the spotlight at the dinner, barely speaking unless asked a direct question. Over the following year, Adam and I grew closer. We moved in together in a cozy apartment, shared our finances, and sometimes visited his parents for Sunday meals. Michael was rarely around, usually traveling for his startup. When he did appear, he was polite but not especially warm. I assumed he was aloof by nature. Adam told me that Michael had a complicated love life, never settling down, though their parents desperately wanted him to marry. Meanwhile, Adam often confided in me about how Michael was the golden child in their youth, overshadowing Adam academically and socially. Yet Adam told me that once Michael hit adulthood, he grew moody and unpredictable, whereas Adam found a calmer path, ironically winning their parents' favor in a different sense. This family dynamic was a mild curiosity to me, not a major concern. After 2 years of dating, Adam proposed. I was ecstatic, said yes, and we began planning a wedding. That was the first time I started witnessing a shift in how his family interacted with me. Evelyn, Adam's mother, was thrilled, telling me she always wanted a sweet and stable daughter-in-law to balance out the family's intensity. Daniel, the father, seemed pleased as well. He told me that Adam was the dependable son, the one likely to build a stable home. I was slightly perplexed by that wording, but brushed it aside. Meanwhile, Michael offered terse congratulations, no more. He didn't even show up at our small engagement party. I remember feeling a pang of disappointment because I wanted the entire family to be united. Adam told me not to worry. He said Michael was not the biggest fan of family gatherings. Still, I never suspected anything more. Time passed, and we set a wedding date about a year away. We started the usual prep: booking a venue, choosing flowers, sending out invitations. My job in event planning proved useful. I was able to handle many details. Meanwhile, Adam continued working in software. We occasionally saw his parents for dinner. Michael rarely appeared. The few times he did, he was cordial, but I sensed an undercurrent of tension. Adam told me Michael was simply preoccupied with his startup. As the wedding drew closer, Adam's parents offered to help pay for certain expenses. They said it was tradition in their family for the father to assist with the wedding of whichever child seemed more responsible. They occasionally made remarks about how Michael never gave them the chance to host a wedding, how perhaps Adam would be the first son to bring them a big family event. I laughed it off, never realizing the deeper feelings that might be at play. 6 months before the wedding, Michael started showing up more frequently. He was apparently back in town for an extended period, finalizing some business deals. He joined family dinners, offered a bit of help with wedding tasks like picking out suits, and occasionally asked me how the planning was going. I was mildly surprised by his sudden involvement, but it felt nice that Adam's brother was not ignoring us. He complimented me on how well I'd managed the venue details. I thanked him, never suspecting hidden motives. Over time, I noticed Michael lingered near me at gatherings, asking about my background, my interests, more than he had before. Adam was happy to see Michael being friendly, though I recall a few moments when I'd catch Michael watching me with a strange intensity. I assumed I was imagining it. One evening after dinner at the family home, Michael offered me a ride back to our apartment because Adam had to stay behind with his mother to discuss some personal matter. During that ride, Michael was quiet at first, then asked me if I truly loved Adam. I found the question odd. I said of course. He nodded, saying that was good, that Adam deserved a loyal partner. The conversation ended there. I felt a weird tension, but told myself not to overthink it. As the wedding date drew near, Adam and I grew busier. We finalized the guest list, the decor. My parents visited from Chicago to help me pick out a dress. Adam's parents declared they would host a rehearsal dinner at a fancy restaurant. Meanwhile, I occasionally texted Michael, who surprisingly asked if I needed help with anything. I mostly declined, having my own support system. He told me to let him know if I changed my mind. I had no reason to see that as suspicious. Finally, the wedding week arrived. We had everything set. We planned a medium-sized ceremony at a lovely garden venue, with about 100 guests. My mother and father flew in, staying at a nearby hotel. Adam's parents were preparing for the big day, and we scheduled a rehearsal dinner 2 nights before the ceremony. Michael had said he would definitely attend. Meanwhile, I was in a flurry of last-minute details. Checking that the florist had all instructions, verifying the caterer, distributing seating plans. Adam was equally busy, running errands. Our days were jam-packed. The rehearsal dinner came. Everyone mingled happily. Adam's father toasted us, praising Adam for finding me a stable, grounded partner who complimented him. Michael sat at the far side of the table, occasionally making remarks, but mostly silent. I remember noticing that his gaze often drifted to me, but the evening ended without incident. The next day was meant to be final prep, but that was the day everything changed forever. It was the afternoon before the wedding, a day that should have been a calm wrap-up before the ceremony. Adam had gone to pick up relatives from the airport. I was at the venue verifying the layout with the staff. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Michael, saying he needed to see me urgently, that it could not wait. I felt a jolt of worry. Had something happened to Adam? I replied, asking if Adam was okay. Michael wrote that Adam was fine, but this was a personal matter we had to discuss. My heart pounded. Perhaps it was about the wedding. I told him I'd be at the venue until 6, then had final errands. He insisted we meet sooner. Reluctantly, I agreed, saying I'd step out to a cafe nearby. We arranged to meet there in half an hour. I told the venue staff I'd be back soon, grabbed my purse, and hurried to the cafe. Michael arrived within minutes, looking tense. We sat in a corner booth. I asked what was going on. He hesitated, then said he could not hide it any longer, that he had strong feelings for me. I froze in disbelief. Michael repeated that from the moment he started spending time around me, he realized I was not just Adam's fiance, but someone he genuinely loved. My mind whirled. I managed to ask if he was joking or if this was some last-minute nonsense. He insisted he was deadly serious, that he could not watch me marry Adam without confessing. My stomach lurched. I told him this was insane, that we were literally 1 day away from the ceremony. He nodded, looking anguished, said it had been tormenting him, but he hoped I might reciprocate. I found that unimaginable. Adam was the man I loved. I'd never given Michael a second glance romantically. I demanded he explain. He revealed that he had never clicked with anyone else the way he felt a connection to me. He insisted that we shared an intellectual bond, that I was wasted on Adam. My anger flared. I told him Adam was his brother, that I'd never betray Adam like that. Michael said that was exactly why he had hidden his feelings. But now, at the 11th hour, he had to speak up or forever hold his peace. My breathing grew shaky. I told him I needed to leave. He grabbed my arm gently, saying he wanted me to understand that I had a choice. He claimed that if I truly considered my own happiness, maybe I would see that he, not Adam, was the right partner. I wrenched free, exclaiming this was absurd. He let me go, but whispered that I should not rush into a marriage if my heart had doubts. I nearly shouted that I had no doubts about Adam, that the only doubt was what the hell Michael was doing. Then I stormed out, feeling tears threatening to spill. My wedding was tomorrow, and I just learned that Adam's older brother claimed to love me. I drove back to the venue in a daze, failing to concentrate on the final tasks. My phone buzzed with Michael's texts, apologizing if he overwhelmed me, but urging me not to ignore the possibility that I might love him too. Furious, I blocked his number. I felt shaky and betrayed, wondering how I'd face Adam or the entire family. Eventually, I told myself I'd keep quiet, handle the wedding. Maybe after we returned from our honeymoon I'd tell Adam that Michael needed mental help or something. Then, an hour before I was to leave, Adam arrived at the venue. He looked distraught. He said his mother had just called him in tears, saying Michael had come home, confessed his love for me, and declared that he would do anything to stop our wedding. I realized Michael had told his parents the same day. My entire body felt numb. Adam asked if it was true. I, choking back tears, said yes, that Michael cornered me at a cafe to profess love. Adam cursed, saying how dare Michael ruin everything. We embraced, uncertain of what to do next. As if that were not enough, we got a phone call from Adam's father telling us to come to the family home immediately. He said the entire family was gathering to discuss a critical matter. Adam and I looked at each other, worried. The wedding was less than a day away. We had the rehearsal at the venue that evening. We told Father we were busy, but he insisted it was urgent. Reluctantly, we drove to Adam's parents' house. There we found Mother Evelyn in tears, Father Daniel looking grave, and Michael standing by the window in silence. Father told us we all needed to talk. I braced myself. Father turned to me and said that Michael had confessed his genuine love for me, that they believed it was not just a whim. He claimed that the entire family was torn, that they had always favored Adam as the stable son, but now realized maybe Michael was truly the one meant for me. I stared in disbelief. Was the entire family insane? Adam exploded, telling Father to back off. But Father insisted we remain calm. Evelyn sobbed that she wanted no disunity between her sons. She asked me to think carefully. She claimed that if Michael's feelings were stronger, maybe I was with the wrong brother. My mouth hung open. I told them I had no interest in Michael, that I loved Adam. Michael spoke up, saying I was simply not giving myself time to see who truly matched me. I called him delusional. Then Father stepped in with a shocking statement. If I were to choose Michael, they would bless that union. But if I insisted on marrying Adam, they might not attend the wedding at all. Adam and I sat there stunned. The wedding was tomorrow. The entire extended family was flying in. Now Father threatened to boycott if I did not consider leaving Adam for Michael. The situation felt surreal. Adam roared that Father had no right to manipulate me like that. Michael told Adam he was simply telling the truth, that he had discovered too late he loved me. Evelyn begged me to reflect on my heart, claiming Michael might be the more passionate partner. She said she had watched me and Adam for a while, worried we lacked deep spark. I was furious, telling them it was not up to them. Then Father threatened that if I married Adam against Michael's heartfelt declaration, Father would cut Adam off from the family business, from inheritance. Adam hissed that he did not care, but I saw the anguish in his eyes. The entire conversation was madness. I said I was leaving. Father said if I walked out, they'd consider the wedding canceled. I told them they had no right to cancel my wedding. Then father repeated that none of them would show up. They would tell the extended family that the wedding was postponed. I nearly collapsed from stress. Adam grabbed my hand and we rushed out, ignoring father calling after us. We got in the car, trying to process. Adam apologized repeatedly for his family's behavior. He said he did not want me to doubt for a second that he loved me. I told him I never doubted him, but I was terrified about the fiasco that awaited us at the ceremony if none of his family came. We spent that drive calling the few local relatives we trusted. Some had no idea what was happening. Others had apparently been told by father that the wedding might be canceled. We realized father was actually contacting guests, telling them not to attend if we insisted on defying the family. This was happening less than 24 hours before the ceremony. My heart felt raw with betrayal. We arrived at the wedding venue that evening, where the staff asked if everything was okay, as they'd heard from some guests that the wedding might not happen. I forced a smile, telling them we were proceeding as planned. Meanwhile, Adam frantically tried to call father and mother, begging them not to do this. They refused to pick up. Michael texted me again, telling me to call off the wedding or I'd regret it. I blocked him. That night, I cried in Adam's arms. We decided we would not yield. We would proceed with our wedding, with or without his family. My parents arrived, noticing my tears. I told them the basics, that Adam's brother claimed to love me and the family demanded I switch grooms. My parents were appalled, saying they'd never heard anything so ridiculous. They offered all the support they could. Adam and I stayed up nearly all night, unsure if half the guests would even appear. Morning came, the day of the ceremony. I put on my dress with shaking hands. My mother tried to calm me, telling me I'd look beautiful. The florist arrived, the photographer arrived, but many of Adam's relatives were no-shows. We ended up with fewer guests than planned, though some of Adam's cousins, who disliked father, rebelled and came anyway. The ceremony time approached, and the officiant said we could begin whenever we were ready. Adam was in another room, presumably equally stressed. Father, mother, and Michael did not appear. The ceremony started an hour late, with me walking down the aisle on my father's arm. I looked across the small gathering. The empty seats made me sad, but I saw love in the eyes of those who had come to support us. At the end of the aisle stood Adam, eyes teary but determined. We recited our vows, exchanged rings, and were pronounced husband and wife. No chaos erupted. For a moment I felt relief. We kissed, ignoring the heartbreak of father and mother refusing to watch their son marry. The small reception was bittersweet. My family and the supportive friends tried to cheer us. Adam's cousins toasted us, condemning father for his cruelty. Michael never showed. We left that evening with a swirl of conflicting emotions, a mixture of newlywed joy and sorrow for the wedge father had driven. We had planned a short honeymoon up in the mountains. Adam and I decided we would still go, though we worried about what might happen while we were gone. Sure enough, once we arrived at our cabin, we found messages from father on Adam's phone, telling him to bring me to the house for a conversation or father would cut Adam off from everything. Adam told me we were already cut off if father refused to attend the wedding. Father wrote that the entire family had decided that I should marry Michael, that it was not too late to annul our ceremony if we had not filed official paperwork. Adam told father that we had indeed filed the marriage license, that we were now legally wed. Father responded with anger, saying we had defied the family's wishes. He threatened to disinherit Adam, telling him Michael was the rightful son who would carry on the name with me. It was so twisted. Adam turned off his phone, refusing to let father ruin our short honeymoon. I spent the next few days ignoring the swirl of emotions, focusing on Adam's affection, telling myself we had done nothing wrong. We had followed our hearts, ignoring a bizarre family demand that I marry Michael, a man I did not love. When we returned from the honeymoon, we discovered father had indeed changed locks on certain properties Adam had partial access to, canceled Adam's accounts in the family bank, and informed the entire extended clan that Adam was effectively exiled from the family unless we complied with father's demand. Michael was apparently the one father now recognized as the favored son. The news shattered Adam's sense of belonging. He sank into a depression. I tried to comfort him, telling him we had each other, that father was being outrageous. Meanwhile, Mother Evelyn reached out in tears, telling Adam to see reason. She said that father believed I was truly meant for Michael, that if I refused, the entire family would remain hostile. Adam told her to stop. She sobbed that the entire fiasco was my fault, that I should have considered what was best for the family. I realized she had convinced herself that Michael's last-minute confession signaled destiny. I ended the call, shaking with fury. Time passed, with father refusing all contact unless we agreed to annul. Michael texted me once more from a new number, telling me not to stand in the way of fate. I blocked him again. Adam had to find a new job, since father had ties to Adam's old company. We ended up moving out of state, seeking a fresh start. My parents helped us with a small loan, letting Adam reestablish himself in a new environment. We faced tremendous stress, but we remained united. I told Adam daily that I did not regret marrying him. He told me the same. We tried to start a new life, free of father's meddling. For a while, we heard only rumors that father had poured resources into Michael's startup, praising him for stepping up. People in that circle claimed father wanted me to eventually realize I'd made a mistake and come back. The idea was absurd, but father apparently believed in strong-arm tactics. Over time, Adam and I forged a stable existence. We found decent jobs, rented a modest home. The heartbreak of losing Adam's entire extended family weighed on him, but we had no alternative. Some distant relatives quietly supported us, telling me father was controlling. I felt comforted by that. Meanwhile, we found small joys in building a life together. A year after the wedding, we discovered we were expecting a child. The pregnancy was a mix of excitement and sorrow, because father and mother were not around to share it. We toyed with the idea of reaching out to father with the news, but decided not to open that door. We gave birth to a baby girl, naming her Lily. She brought a bright new chapter into our lives, reminding us that we had each other, no matter what father or Michael said. Eventually, father fell ill, or so we heard from a cousin. He never sought reconciliation. We never attempted it either. The family demanded that if we wanted a place in father's final days, we had to give up the marriage or let me transition to Michael. It was so outlandish we never responded. Father died soon after, leaving a will that gave everything to Michael. Adam was left out. We had expected that. We do not regret our choice. I share this story now to show how close I came to losing my freedom and sense of love. One day before the wedding, Michael declared his love. Father demanded I marry him instead. The entire family turned on me and Adam, but we refused to yield. We got married anyway, with minimal attendance from Adam's relatives, forging a new life away from that toxic environment. Through heartbreak and tears, we discovered that when a family's demands conflict with your personal autonomy, you must stand your ground. I had loved Adam from the start, not Michael, and no misguided last-minute confession could change that. We paid a great price, but we remain proud that we followed our hearts rather than a monstrous demand from father, mother, or brother. That is the complete story from my vantage point. I have recounted how I met Adam, how Michael came forward at the final hour, how father and mother insisted I marry Michael, how we refused, leading to our partial exile from the family. I have given all the key experiences, from start to finish, in hopes that anyone reading might realize that no matter how close the wedding day, no matter how strong the family pressure, you can say no. You can walk your own path. If a brother of your fiancé confesses love the day before the ceremony, it does not mean you must cave or rearrange your life. My life stands as proof that even when the entire family demands a bizarre arrangement, your choice remains yours. I remain Adam's wife, mother to our daughter, living contently far from those who insisted otherwise. That is the truth of my story.